Captain Rebecca Falcon Chin was declared dead 8 years ago. But when American Airlines Flight 2847 faces catastrophic failure at 35,000 feet with 312 souls aboard, a mysterious passenger reveals her true identity. She lands the crippled Boeing 777 in a daring rescue, exposing her undercover mission and sacrificing 8 years of secrecy. Now the ghost pilot must rebuild her life. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. The story begins at 35,000 feet above the Atlantic Ocean, where American Airlines Flight 2847, a Boeing 777, cuts through dark clouds on a routine evening flight from New York to London. Inside the cockpit, Captain James Harrison, a man in his 60s with 30 years of flying experience, sits in the left seat. He checks his instruments with the calm efficiency of someone who has done this thousands of times. First Officer Michael Torres, a younger pilot in his 30s, monitors the autopilot. The night is clear beyond the clouds, and the flight has been smooth for the past 4 hours. The captain turns to Michael and mentions they should reach London on schedule, maybe even early. Everything seems perfect, routine, ordinary. Then Captain Harrison grabs his chest. His face goes white. Michael hears a strange sound, something between a gasp and a groan. Harrison tries to speak but cannot form words. His hand trembles as he reaches for the radio, but his body goes rigid. Michael realizes what is happening and unbuckles his seatbelt, moving to help, but it is too late. Harrison's head falls back against the headrest. The captain has suffered a massive heart attack. Michael checks for a pulse. There is none. He immediately calls for help on the radio, his voice steady but tense as he informs air traffic control that his captain is incapacitated and he needs medical assistance on the ground. Before air traffic control can respond, something terrible happens. A loud electrical pop echoes through the cockpit. The instruments flicker and go dark for a terrifying second, then come back but wrong, showing conflicting information. Michael taps the screens, but they continue showing impossible readings. Another electrical burst. This time, the smell of burning circuits fills the air. The autopilot disconnects. The plane lurches. Alarms begin screaming. Red warning lights flash across the instrument panel. Michael's hands shake as he fights to control the aircraft, pushing the yoke forward and pulling back, trying to understand what is happening. The hydraulic pressure gauge drops. Then drops more. Michael's training kicks in, but his mind races. This is not just one system failing. Everything is failing at once. He gets on the radio and declares an emergency. His voice is calm but urgent as he tells air traffic control that American Airlines Flight 2847 is losing multiple systems. He states they have 312 souls on board and they need vectors to the nearest airport immediately. Air traffic control responds with instructions, but the situation continues to worsen. Michael is sweating now, making calculations in his head about fuel, distance, and altitude. The plane is descending, but he has no idea how fast or if he can stop it. In the main cabin, passengers are beginning to notice something is wrong. The plane lurches suddenly, and people grab the armrests. A flight attendant named Sarah, a woman in her 40s who has worked for American Airlines for 15 years, steadies herself against a seat. She has felt emergency situations before, but something about this feels different. A passenger, a businessman in seat 12C, asks her if everything is okay. Sarah tells him there is a minor technical issue and the pilots are handling it. She tries to smile, but her eyes betray her worry. She moves through the cabin, trying to reassure people, but then she hears something that makes her blood run cold. The engines sound different. One sounds like it is struggling. 30 rows back, sitting in seat 28F at the window, is a woman with short dark hair and calm, intelligent eyes. She is Rebecca. Her real name is Captain Rebecca Falcon Chin, and she was officially declared dead 8 years ago. For the past 8 years, she has lived a different life, operating deep undercover in hostile territories around the world, gathering intelligence that saved countless lives in ways the world will never know. She learned to blend in, to disappear, to become invisible. She learned to speak multiple languages and to move through dangerous places without being noticed. She has been safe because nobody knows she is alive. She has been alone because she cannot tell anyone the truth. Now, as the plane lurches and the cabin lights flicker, Rebecca sits up straight. She has spent the last week traveling under a false identity, moving through airports with forged documents, heading to a safe house where she would disappear again. She closes her eyes. She knows exactly what is happening to this aircraft. She can hear it in the sound of the engines, feel it in the way the plane is moving. This is her moment. She has a choice. She can stay hidden. She can remain Rebecca Nobody, the mysterious passenger who keeps to herself. Or she can become Captain Falcon again. Rebecca stands up. She moves quickly toward the front of the cabin, where she finds Sarah, the flight attendant, checking on passengers. Rebecca's voice is calm and clear. She tells Sarah that she is a military pilot and asks to speak to the captain immediately. Sarah looks at her, uncertain, but something in Rebecca's bearing, her confidence, her certainty, makes her move without questioning. Sarah leads Rebecca to the cockpit door and knocks. Michael opens it, and Rebecca enters. The cockpit is chaos. Alarms scream. Lights flash red. Michael is fighting the controls, and his face shows the strain of a man trying to hold back the ocean with his bare hands. Rebecca takes in the situation in seconds. She sees the failed instruments, the dropping altitude indicator, and the problem is immediately clear to her. She has trained for this. She has studied aircraft systems for years. She has spent 8 years working in environments where knowing exactly what to do in impossible situations was the difference between life and death. Rebecca tells Michael that she is going to help him. She moves into the cockpit fully and looks at Captain Harrison, seeing that he is beyond help. She turns back to Michael and asks him what happened. Michael explains everything, his words tumbling over each other, desperate and fast. Rebecca listens with absolute focus. She asks about the electrical systems and the hydraulic pressure. Michael points to the gauges. Rebecca nods and tells him to level the aircraft first. Michael says he is trying, but the controls feel wrong. Rebecca suggests that the hydraulic failure might be affecting the control surfaces. She asks Michael how much fuel they have and how far they are from land. Michael checks his fuel gauges, though they are flickering and unreliable. He estimates they have maybe 2 hours of fuel, maybe less, but he says they cannot make it to Europe. The engines are struggling. They will never have the altitude or the range. Rebecca looks out the window. She is thinking, calculating, using everything she has learned in her secret life and her military career. She asks Michael if there is a military base or an airfield close enough. Michael says yes. Goose Bay in Canada is within range if they descend now and fly directly. It is their only chance. Rebecca tells him that is their destination, and they need to declare it now. Michael gets on the radio and informs air traffic control that American Airlines Flight 2847 is diverting to Goose Bay Airport in Canada. They are declaring an emergency landing. He states they have lost multiple systems and they need emergency vehicles standing by. Air traffic control acknowledges and begins vectoring them toward Goose Bay. Michael is still fighting the controls, but his fear is lessening now because Rebecca is here. She is not panicked. She moves with purpose. She checks systems and makes suggestions. When an instrument panel goes completely dark, she does not panic. She walks Michael through manual flight, telling him to use his backup instruments and to fly the plane the way pilots did decades ago, before computers. Rebecca tells Michael about the dead reckoning, about flying by compass and by the stars and by feel. She tells him to trust his instincts. She tells him that he knows how to fly this plane, and computers are just helping tools. Without them, the skill is still there. Michael nods. His breathing slows. He focuses. He begins to feel the aircraft instead of fighting it. Rebecca stands beside him, her hand resting on the back of his seat, her presence steady and calming. She is his anchor in the storm. The descent is long and terrifying. The altitude meter shows they are dropping too fast, even with Michael trying to manage it. Rebecca suggests that they might need to accept a faster descent rate to conserve fuel. She calculates the angles and the distances in her head. She tells Michael the descent rate is acceptable. They will have enough fuel if they land in the next 40 minutes. Michael acknowledges and adjusts his heading toward Goose Bay. The lights of the airfield appear below them through the clouds, growing larger and more real with each passing minute. They are 15 minutes from landing when Rebecca moves to the radio. She looks at Michael, and he nods. He understands. She is about to become visible again. Her 8 years of hiding are about to end. Rebecca picks up the microphone and contacts Goose Bay Ground Control. She identifies the aircraft and requests immediate emergency landing clearance. The ground controller confirms and tells them to proceed to runway 03. They will have fire trucks and emergency vehicles standing by. Everything is prepared. Then Rebecca does something that will change everything. In military aviation, pilots use call signs. They are the names that other pilots know them by, the identities that travel through radio waves and through history. Rebecca has not used her call sign in 8 years. It has been silent, dead, part of a woman the world believes is gone. But now, as the plane begins its final descent toward Goose Bay, Rebecca keys the radio one more time. She gives one final position report. She says, "Goose Bay ground, this is American Airlines Flight 2847, now descending through 2,000 feet for landing. Call sign Falcon, currently on approach to runway 03. The moment her words leave the radio, miles away at the military air base, the radio frequency goes silent. At a radar station, a controller freezes. In the ready room, 2 F-22 fighter pilots who have been standing by to escort the emergency landing have stopped moving. One of them, a young captain named Torres, steps toward the radio speaker. He looks at his flight lead, a major named Jackson, and says, "Did you hear that?" Major Jackson nods slowly. He is pale. "Falcon," he says. Nobody uses that call sign. Falcon is dead. Falcon has been dead for 8 years. But both pilots know what they heard. They heard a voice on the radio, calm and clear, saying a call sign that belongs to a ghost. The F-22s take off immediately. They climb fast, pushing through the air toward the emergency landing site. As they approach, they see the Boeing 777 descending toward the runway. The two fighters take up positions on either side of the large commercial aircraft, escorting it down. Major Jackson keys his radio and speaks to the American Airlines flight. He says, "Flight 2847, this is military escort. We are providing support for your landing. Welcome home, Falcon." His voice cracks slightly. Rebecca does not respond. She is focused on landing the aircraft. She and Michael are working together now, a perfect team, flying the damaged 777 toward the runway with precision and care. The wheels touch down. The aircraft lurches and bounces, and for a horrible moment, it seems like it might veer off the runway. Michael wrestles with the controls. Rebecca places her hand on his shoulder and tells him he has this, just a little bit more. The plane slows. The landing gear holds. They are down. American Airlines Flight 2847 comes to rest on the runway at Goose Bay Airport, all 312 passengers safe. The cabin erupts. Passengers are crying and holding each other. Sarah, the flight attendant, is on her radio, confirming that everyone is okay, that the emergency landing was successful. Passengers are already removing their seat belts and standing, desperate to get off the aircraft. But in the cockpit, Rebecca and Michael sit for a moment in the sudden silence. Michael turns to Rebecca and says, "Thank you." Rebecca nods. She knows what is coming. The moment she landed this plane, the moment she used her call sign on the radio, everything changed. Emergency vehicles surround the aircraft. Fire trucks park near the wings. Ambulances wait with their doors open. Medical personnel board the plane to check on passengers and to attend to Captain Harrison's body. Michael is escorted off the aircraft, and military doctors check him over. But Rebecca remains in the cockpit. She knows they are coming for her. She can hear the sirens outside. She can hear voices in the cabin becoming louder and more official. She straightens her uniform and waits. A military officer enters the cockpit. He is a colonel, and his face shows shock and confusion. He looks at Rebecca and says her name as a question. Rebecca confirms her identity. The colonel tells her that she needs to come with him immediately. He says there are a lot of questions that need answers. Rebecca stands, and as she does, she catches her reflection in the cockpit window. For the first time in 8 years, she is not hiding. She is Captain Rebecca Falcon Chin, and she is alive. The next hours are a blur of debriefing rooms and military officials and intelligence agencies. Rebecca is taken to a secure facility where she is questioned by people from organizations that do not have names on the outside of their buildings. They want to know everything about her 8 years undercover. They want to know what intelligence she gathered, who she met, what she learned. Rebecca answers their questions. She tells them about the networks she infiltrated, the information she gathered, the lives she helped save. She tells them about the moment when she decided that saving 312 people on an airplane was worth ending her cover. The officials listen, and gradually, their expressions change. They realize what Rebecca has done. She has sacrificed herself, her mission, her entire operation to save strangers. By the next morning, news helicopters are circling Goose Bay Airport. The story has broken. The media is calling it impossible. Dead pilot saves plane, the headlines read. The ghost of Falcon. Military pilot declared dead 8 years ago returns to save 312 lives. The story spreads across the world like wildfire. Within hours, the Secretary of Defense is holding a press conference. She confirms that Captain Rebecca Falcon Chin was indeed involved in a classified military operation 8 years ago that required her to operate undercover. She explains that Captain Chin was not actually dead but was serving her country in a capacity that required complete separation from her previous life. She praises Rebecca's heroism in the emergency landing and says that Captain Chin has demonstrated extraordinary courage and quick thinking. The secretary announces that Rebecca will receive the highest military honors. In a small house in Virginia, a woman is watching the news when she sees her daughter's face on the screen. Rebecca's mother, Elena, has spent 8 years believing her child was dead. She has visited a grave and left flowers and grieved. Now, watching the news report, she sees Rebecca alive. She hears her daughter's voice. Elena's hands shake as she grabs her phone and calls her husband, Rebecca's father, James. He is at work, but Elena tells him to turn on the television immediately. She tells him Rebecca is alive. James does not understand at first. He thinks Elena is confused or having some kind of episode. But then he sees it. His daughter, older than he remembered, but unmistakably his daughter, walking into a building with military officers. James sits down in his office and cries. They drive to the military hospital where Rebecca is being held for observation and questioning. The drive takes hours, and neither of them speaks much. Elena grips James's hand as they walk through the hospital corridors. They have been told that Rebecca will see them. That she has requested to see them. But they are terrified. Rebecca has been dead for 8 years. She has been someone else, somewhere else. What if she does not recognize them? What if she is not the same person? Rebecca is sitting in a hospital room when a nurse opens the door. The nurse's expression is gentle and knowing. She has seen moments like this before. Elena enters first. She moves toward Rebecca slowly, as if afraid that her daughter might disappear if she moves too fast. Rebecca stands. For a moment, neither of them moves. Then Elena crosses the room and embraces her daughter. She is crying and shaking, and Rebecca holds her. Elena says, "I thought you were gone. I thought I had lost you." Rebecca says, "I know, Mom. I know. I am so sorry. I am so sorry." James enters and stands frozen, watching his wife and daughter hold each other. Then Rebecca extends her hand to him, and he moves forward and embraces them both. They sit together in the hospital room as Rebecca explains what she can explain. She tells them that she was working for military intelligence. She cannot tell them all the details, but she tells them that she was helping protect people. She tells them that she could not maintain any contact because it would have put them in danger. She tells them that she thought about them every single day. She tells them that the mission ended the moment she used her call sign on the radio, and she made the choice that saving the people on that plane was worth ending the mission. Her mother says that she is proud of her. Her father says the same. They stay with her for hours, and gradually, the years of separation begin to feel less like an impossible distance and more like just time that passed. 3 weeks later, a military ceremony is held at the Pentagon. Rebecca stands in dress uniform as the Secretary of Defense places a medal around her neck. Photographers flash cameras. Media outlets broadcast the ceremony live. Politicians speak about Rebecca's service and her heroism. Her parents sit in the front row, Elena crying and smiling at the same time. After the ceremony, there is a reception where military officers and government officials shake Rebecca's hand and thank her for her service. But Rebecca feels strange in this ceremony. She has been trained to avoid attention, to disappear, to blend in. The spotlight is uncomfortable. She has saved lives in the dark, and no one knew her name. Now, the world knows her face. Children online are drawing pictures of her. There are social media accounts dedicated to her story. She is not sure how she feels about being visible. 2 months after the emergency landing, Rebecca is called to a meeting with the Chief of the Air Force. The chief tells her that they want her to return to active flying. They want her to lead a new training program for elite fighter pilots. They want her expertise, her experience, and her heroism to inspire the next generation. Rebecca is hesitant at first. She asks if she can think about it. But she knows, before the meeting even ends, that she will say yes. Rebecca returns to flying. She climbs into an F-22 Raptor for the first time in 8 years. The cockpit wraps around her like an old friend. Her hands know where everything is. Her body remembers the feel of the aircraft. She runs through the startup sequence, and when the engines fire up, she closes her eyes for just a moment and feels something inside her settle. This is home. This is who she is. Her first flight back is short, just a 30-minute hop around the base, but when she lands, her new squadron is waiting for her. Pilots she has never met but who know exactly who she is. The young men and women who will be her students. They salute her as she walks toward them. Rebecca salutes back, and she smiles. She is home. Over the next months, Rebecca trains pilots. She teaches them about systems and procedures and the importance of staying calm under pressure. But more importantly, she teaches them about courage and about the choices that matter. She tells them that flying is about more than skill and precision. It is about responsibility. It is about understanding that the decisions you make in a cockpit affect real people. She teaches them that sometimes the most important thing you can do is exactly what she did on American Airlines Flight 2847. You pay attention. You understand the situation. You use everything you have been trained to do. And you act. On a warm afternoon in spring, Rebecca is walking across the tarmac when she hears a voice. It is Michael Torres, the first officer from the emergency landing. He is in civilian clothes and is carrying a briefcase. He sees Rebecca and smiles. He says he is still flying, but he is also writing a book about the emergency landing. He wanted to thank Rebecca one more time and to ask permission to dedicate the book to her. Rebecca laughs and says yes. She tells him that he did an excellent job that night. She tells him that she could not have landed the plane without him. Michael's eyes get a little wet. He says that he will never forget what she did. He shakes her hand and says goodbye. Rebecca stands alone on the tarmac as Michael walks away. She thinks about the 8 years of hiding, the years of being alone, the years of work that no one knew about. She thinks about the moment when she heard the alarm in the cockpit and knew that she had to choose between staying hidden and saving lives. She has never regretted the choice. The sun is setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Rebecca walks toward the hangars where her squadron is preparing aircraft for the next day's training flights. Young pilots wave to her as she approaches. She waves back. She is Captain Rebecca Falcon Chin. She was dead for 8 years. Now she is alive again. Now she is training the next generation of pilots to do what she did. To pay attention. To understand the situation. To use everything they have been trained to do. To act when it matters. She enters the squadron operations room and begins reviewing the training schedule for tomorrow. Outside, the sky continues to change colors. The day is ending. Another day will begin tomorrow. Rebecca has learned to live in the moment, to be present, to understand that the most important time is now. She has been invisible. Now she is visible. She has been alone. Now she has a family and a mission and a purpose that is recognized and celebrated. This is her life now. This is who Captain Rebecca Falcon Chin is. And as she sits in the operations room, planning tomorrow's flights, she is at peace. The ghost has become real. The mission has ended. And the rest of her life has just begun.